Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. So this week we're gonna get into reasons why narcissists can't change. People will really struggle with this because they think if I love them more, if I am more of what they want me to be, if I change, then this person will change. It's inevitable, right? And so I wanna go over really the key main reasons why this is absolutely impossible and it's not going to happen. And the reason why this video is so important is because when you are in these relationships, especially when you've been with someone for a long period of time, you remember really those beginning phases, or you remember those times in a relationship where it was really, really good, and now you're starting to see the mask starting to come off, and it's a real hard thing to have to deal with, to try to accept what's real versus what isn't real. And people will struggle with this when they're in narcissistic relationships with people, because they want to go back to that person that they saw, that glimpse of that good person or the person that they really want them to be. So I want to give you some key things so you can understand this really well, hopefully, and be able to accept that this is not going to happen. The struggle I think most people have is they tend to blame themselves right off the bat. So let's go into the struggles that you will face having to accept this. Is that possibly you did something wrong. You caused this person to change, and that is one of the really big flags that you have been abused, is when you start to question yourself more than you start to question anything or anyone else. So when you solely put the blame on yourself, thinking that I failed, that I must be different, that maybe I was asking for too much, maybe I was too moody, or whatever, right? Whatever the person has kind of constructed you to be in the relationship, which is basically the problem. And so because you're not changing, or the person, the narcissist, is making you feel like you are the problem, and they're not taking any real accountability for themselves and their part in the relationship that's starting to cause perhaps the dysfunction, then you just go within. And really this comes from a lack of self-esteem, definitely some codependency, and really, honestly, just abuse that you've been through, where you now feel like this entire relationship is your responsibility to carry. So you will always internalize these stories that this person is either blatantly throwing at you or subtly throwing at you, either with perhaps giving you verbal abuse, perhaps being passive aggressive, perhaps being a little undermining, and like they're saying things and they're kind of digs but not really, and you don't know how to take it, so you're just internalizing everything. When all of that happens for an extended period of time, you start to dwindle your real core self-esteem. And maybe it really wasn't ever there to begin with, where you felt very secure and confident in yourself, but all of the abuse that you've had over the years has really chipped away at that. And now you're kind of at the mercy of this person. And really that's why people will internalize all of the things that are going wrong in these relationships as if it's their fault. So now a healthy person who perhaps doesn't suffer from codependency is going to self-reflect, is going to detach from that person, from the relationship, and they're going to assess, okay, what is really my fault, if I'm really honest, and know that, yep, these are definitely things that I should probably work on within myself, but also understanding that they didn't really do anything good or bad to cause this person to now behave in the way that they're behaving. And I think that's a really key point to remember, is that no matter what you do, everyone else outside of you is responsible for their own actions, their own behavior, regardless of what you do. So now if that is the actual case, then that means that nothing you could ever do, good or bad, would make this person think or make this person behave in the way that they do. All right, let's get into change. Change is something that is very hard for just the average person to do. We are creatures of habit, and a lot of times people struggle with changing core aspects about themselves because, quite frankly, they're just unaware that those aspects are even a problem. So that's number one. Number two, let's get into the difference between permanent change and temporary change. So temporary change is when someone will want to do something. They want to change. They want to be this person. The reason why they want to change remember this is temporary change, is because they are seeing that their behavior is not getting the results that they want outside of themselves, not within themselves. So they don't want to change at their core of who they are and work on themselves. They're wanting to change because they want to get something from this change. And that something has to do with you. So what you will see is someone who is promising to do something different, promising to go to therapy, wanting to work on themselves, and they'll do a little bit of the work and you'll start to see them backtrack. And that's why when you're working on a relationship with anyone, the most important thing that we must all kind of monitor is the progress that someone's making. And really, what is the consistent behavior over a course of time, a period of time, that you're seeing within this person? That will determine the character of a person. Not that they say they want to change, not even quite frankly, the temporary change that you're seeing, right? Like, okay, they're doing the work and things are getting better. We can't just forget about everything that we just talked about. We kind of have to monitor change and make sure that it's consistent and make sure that it's something that this person wants to do versus something that they're doing because they want to get something out of it, which is very much manipulative. Now, the struggle that most people have is that they start to see little glimpses of hope. And like I said, everything else goes out the window. They now believe that this person is changing. They kind of forget about really their standards and the boundaries that they might have put into play. So they don't really hold that person to that little bit of change that they're seeing. So I'm starting to see change in you. And so now I expect that. And I'm going to hold that. I'm going to put that bar really, really high because that's where I want you to meet me, is here at this standard. So most people that are with someone who's narcissistic perhaps or toxic or unhealthy, they don't do that. They don't operate in that way because they don't really want to put in the effort to monitor what someone's doing. They don't want to be self-aware to witness, okay, what's really going on here? Is this change that this person wants to do? They don't want to do that type of work. They just would rather someone tell them what they like to hear, feel good and feel a high temporarily for the person, for you, and then long-term face the same issues down the road. Now, permanent change is something that can absolutely happen, but permanent change has to do with the person being able to self-reflect, to say, I absolutely don't like this about myself. I don't want to be this person, versus it having to do with someone else. Now, someone could bring something to your attention, and then you could be able to self-reflect. But someone bringing something to your attention and then you self-reflecting, the key thing here is not the person that brought something to your attention, but it's the fact that you self-reflect, kind of going back to that first point, you did that self-reflection to say, I don't want to be this person. So this isn't about, I don't want to be this person because you don't like that I'm this person. I don't want to be this person because I'm not getting the results that I want. The point is, I don't want to be this, I don't want to have this character. I don't want to be this person at my core. I want to work on this. I know that this is my stuff. That kind of owning, that kind of ownership that you take on a trait or a habit or a wound that you yourself know you really need to work on, then that's where some real change can happen. I also believe that permanent change really will happen quickly when you hit enough pain. So for someone who, for example, is an alcoholic, maybe they got so drunk one night that they fell, hit their head, and they ended up in the hospital. And that jolted enough pain within that person to say, nope, something absolutely has to change. That they overrided the addiction, or they worked through that addiction to want to go back and do what they've always done in order to really make a permanent change happen. So either you have to hit enough pain, or you have to self-reflect enough where you take ownership for a character trait, a habit, an old programming, whatever you want to call it, that you have that you don't want to carry with you anymore because you know it's not serving you. So both of those things have nothing to do with anyone else. So most narcissists will give you temporary change. And here's the reason why you'll never see permanent change in someone. Number one, they're not going to be able to own their unhealthy behavior. So if I can't own that I'm the problem, that what I'm doing is not okay, if I can't even see that, then there's no way I'm going to even be able to the slightest amount self-reflect to say, okay, that's not okay and I shouldn't do that. There's none of that. So right off the bat, if I can't own something, I'm not going to change anything. If I can't own the fact that I'm an alcoholic, then I don't see a problem in the way that I live my life. And so nothing's going to change. When a narcissist can't accept that they did anything wrong, that's because their ego is at the forefront. Now, most of us, depending on the situation or the circumstance, our ego might 100% just come forward. But there's always that voice inside. There's always that little whisper that says, no, 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 that's your stuff. And you need to own that. Someone who's narcissistic, that voice is completely shut off. So the ego is always at the forefront. So number one, I'm not going to be able to own or accept that my behavior is not okay. I'm not going to be able to see fault in the way I'm operating because my ego won't allow me to do that, because there's so much shame that ego has to be right at the forefront, right in front of me, taking charge. Now, if that's the case, then that means I will always feel as though deep down, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm perfect and you're not. And my ego will always give me justification for my actions. And really, at the end of the day, when you bottle all that together, you have a complete mess, first of all. But secondly, you're never going to actually get any change from this person. All you're going to get is words. All you're going to get is promises. All you're going to get is temporary change. Even the average person, it takes a lot. Think about all the work that you're doing on yourself. Think about all this mindfulness, self-reflection, videos, podcasts, things that you're reading, spiritual awakenings. Like, think about all of this stuff that you're trying to do right now to get better within yourself, probably because you've experienced enough pain in your life. But think about how hard it is every day to really reprogram and work on yourself and rebuild and all that stuff. Now look at it from the point of view of someone who won't even acknowledge any of this. I mean, your hands are kind of tied. So I wanted to make this video, and I hope this really helps you understand this stuff a little bit better. If you have any questions or you would like to work with me, I always link everything down below, but don't forget to also click the subscribe button and click on post notifications so you guys can be informed each week when I do upload a new video with a brand new topic. And I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.